How's everybody doing? So I'm doing another short, but I'm going to say short's probably going to be a long video. Sorry. Another long video about the kind of equipment that I carry. I've been getting more questions about that recently, and I felt like it was time to maybe do a part 2 to my tool bag video. So if you'll remember a couple of years ago, I think it's been a couple of years at this point, maybe a year. I did a video on this guy. So this is the electrician style bag that I carry, and I still do use this. So this is not an update necessarily, but this is more to elaborate deeper into what I use for install purposes and less on what I use for kind of a day-to-day thing. So this is still what I use more in the lot times of the year. So in the late part of the fall season, BOA, UIL, I'll carry this around with some basic tools in it, like I mentioned in the other video. Sometimes even just rehearsals if I don't want to have a whole bag or I know that I'm going to need a couple tools. I'll have this in the car kind of ready to go. Not really a big deal, but if I need to be mobile and don't want to have to worry about wheels, it can be really helpful. So this is not an update to this video, to that video, but it is kind of a deeper into what I do for installs. And also to just talk a little bit about a few more specific pieces of gear that I don't normally just have with me in the lot, but I do kind of carry around on some of the bigger projects sometimes, and then also the things that I do outside of marching band. So this is a little bit on that. So I have today with me my kind of general Pelican, and then I also have my install Pelican that's a little bit more marching focused. I'm going to talk about both of those, and then hopefully this isn't supposed to be a video that every band and percussion person can kind of take and say, my front ensemble needs 2 full kitted out Pelicans and this and this and this. It's more about hopefully everybody can take one thing away that might be a cool, you didn't know that was a thing that existed, or maybe a use case or something like that. So to first start, before I elaborate too far on what's going on, so I have today, this is my general audio Pelican and my install Pelican, but this one in particular goes with me for for more of the not marching band gigs as well. So in the springtime when I'm doing more corporate, more broadcasty stuff, even in the fall sometimes, I'll take this with me to just have anything I could need most of the time, which is really helpful. I don't have super specific stuff, any kind of like system tech level things in here. There's not measurement microphones and stuff. It's mostly toolkit type things, which is easy. And it can go with me kind of anywhere. It's also mostly flyable, which is really helpful. So in this one, I have a lid organizer up top, and then kind of the tray pack system on the bottom. Those are not necessary. They're just kind of helpful for organization. Lid organizer is really cool for small stuff, and most of this is pretty obvious, so I'll go through it pretty quickly. But I've got a talkback mic over here. This is just an SE V7 that's switched. Helpful if I need a random microphone that I just need to throw up for literally anything, it's there. It can also be a talkback microphone in march band settings. So with that and a cable that you can get for sure packs or for otherwise, and adapters and all that stuff, you can go directly into a wireless pack, which can be super helpful. And then I have a little stand over there for whatever, just a baby desktop mic stand. It's kind of helpful to have. And then all the adapters and stuff live up here, power adapters for the router, Ethernet adapters, small Ethernet patch cables, my sound tools, sniffer sender lives up here, couplers, blah, blah, that's all the boring stuff. Sharpies and a shaft extension for my screwdriver. I also always have an iPhone 15 with me, which is super not necessary, but it's cool to have for if you need an additional camera angle for something, or if you need to run sound from front of house for the background music or whatever in some other corporate scenario, and you don't want to put your phone that is your actual phone sitting there. It can be super helpful. Or if you need your iPad for otherwise, or your laptop's busy doing something else, who knows, right? Tapes and drum key and extra lanyard and headlamp and stuff lives up here. So none of that's super cool or anything. I do always carry ibuprofen, pro tip. And then down here on the bottom, I've got rechargeable 9 volts and disposable 9 volts, and same thing for AA's. And I've also got this super handy, if you're not using this, I've also got some button cells down there as well. If you're not using a little memory card thing, if you use memory cards all the time, These are super sweet. You can get them on Amazon. It's waterproof. It doesn't need to be waterproof, but it just keeps all the tiny micro SD cards kind of somewhere. Get back in there. There we go. So that's kind of the top part. Now we'll get to the fun things. So on this side, I've got a bunch of cables. None of it's super awesome, but there's a couple ones that are pretty sweet. I already talked about the wireless adapter here. I keep a bunch of, I think these are 6 foot, maybe they're 5 foot or 3 foot, something like that. Ethernet cables. This is really cool in conjunction with wiring up a rack of wireless units, which I don't do at client kind of things where I'm just there for a day, but if I show up to a corporate gig and I need to be there for 2 or 3 days and I've got a bunch of QLXs, it's great to have these. These are the Cable Matters thin ones. They're super cheap. You can get them on Amazon. I don't think I've ever had one fail, maybe one somewhere along the way, but they're super sweet for packing light. I have probably 20 of these in various lengths. So we'll talk about that in a second because that's a fun one. Couple XLR cables, Thunderbolt cable, nice long 1/8 inch, just aux cable, if you will. Another XLR cable, another long Ethernet cable, really good to have. And then these guys, so this is a pair of Edison to PowerCon, both in and out. I don't work with True One as much, so I don't find it then super necessary to need it. And especially when I'm working with True One, normally it's with a rental company that's going to have more of it around. But PowerCon, I feel like it's never bad. With these two things and an extension cord and one of these, which is just a PowerCon coupler that can couple ins and outs, you can end up with any combination of adapter that you could possibly need. So if you have a PowerCon cable that you need to get plugged into a wall, that will do it. If you have a PowerCon cable that you need to get power out to an Edison, that'll do it. If you need a really short extension cord, that's a joke, right? But there's totally, like, these two things are super invaluable to have. And if you have a couple extra Edison cables, or you just want to go to Home Depot and get some ends and a couple PowerCon ends and make them, these are great. I recommend everybody, especially in the marching arts, if you have PowerCon, put 2 of these in your mixer cart and an extension cord, and you will not have a troubleshooting scenario that you can't solve, or you've got a 99% chance of being able to solve that troubleshooting scenario. So that's that. This is the other fun cable, and this is called a Z cable for anybody who hasn't heard of it. So essentially, it's 2 female XLRs and 2 male XLRs, and they're all wired together passively. It's hard to like hold this out in a way that makes sense, into a Z. That's backwards, I guess, for you guys, right? Into a Z. And so essentially, this is both a XLR turnaround for both genders. It's also a Y cable in both directions, so 1 male to 2 female, or 1 female to 2 male. Or with another turnaround, you can actually even make it a 3-way. If you're doing that, you probably should solve the problem another way. But this is like 4 or 5 functions in one XLR, and it prevents me from needing to carry turnarounds. I still carry turnarounds because they're just good to have, but it prevents me from needing turnarounds in a pinch or having to carry Y cables in both directions. So this is just one thing. If I end up needing more than one Y cable, again, I'm probably just going to need to find a better solution, and this is a really quick and easy way to stay super flexible, but also super light. So that's the cables. Hopefully that was at least a little bit interesting to someone. I also carry boring stuff, so I've got the tapes. I also carry a roll of 1/2 inch gaff tape, or 3/4 inch gaff tape white, good for labeling stuff. And then I also carry, this one's super fun, a small rig clamp. So this Small Rig is a company that makes tons of just great stuff. I don't have to put it together for you. But essentially, it's a bunch of modular clamps that you can get. They come in the alligator type jaws that can go on like flat tables. They come in that version. They come in bigger ones. And then it's a super high quality mount, and you can mount a bunch of stuff on here. I've got just my phone mount on it right now. But you can mount tons of stuff on here, and it's one wing nut to adjust all of the angles and the tightnesses and everything. So it's super user-friendly, it's super small and light, and they have an ecosystem of stuff that is just out of this world. I've got a couple other things that just don't live in this box all the time, but they're great. They also make V-mount batteries, they make all kinds of stuff, so if you type in small rig, you'll find all kinds of stuff. If you need something as far as a mounting scenario goes for small-ish things, or like a tripod that they make, yeah, they're great. So next on the list, kind of running through this quickly, I've got my my basically corporate slap-on kind of thing. So this is just a Sharpie and a flashlight and then a Leatherman. I forget what Leatherman this is, but it's got pliers and a knife. That's what you need 99% of the time. But great to have. Leathermans are awesome. I carry a little dumb switch in here. This is just whatever the Netgear 308 8-port dummy is. I also have like the managed PoE flat version of this too, but like the brick is too big, so I just carry this guy. This is again great for wiring up quick wiring up quick rack of wireless if you need to. So great to have. Other stuff that's in here is two of my favorite things. So I have a bunch of these little bags, you'll notice, and these two things are sweet. They are a RF scanner. So this is called a Tiny SA, and it's just a little baby spectrum analyzer scanner, signal generator. It does a bunch of stuff. It's a multi-function RF tool, and it comes with a little antenna that you can just plop right on here. And is it as powerful and super accurate and everything else as all of the other RF techs that you can buy? Not necessarily. Is it super cheap for what it does and super mobile? Yes, 100%. So what I can do with this is I can take this, and instead of using wireless workbench with networked wireless at a show site, I can go to a lot and turn this on. And you'll see eventually here as this loads, which I don't know what preset it's on, so it's going to look all funky, but let's go there. You probably see hopefully that a little bit. I can turn this on and I can just pick my frequency, and you can set presets and do all kinds of stuff, and then make a trace. So I can take essentially a wireless scan in a parking lot or in a venue, and then go out back to the lot on my computer and plug that into wireless workbench, and then get a wireless frequency coordination mobily without having to have my computer in a wireless unit wherever I want to be. So for example, when I show up to shows, instead of scanning in the parking lot, I really prefer to scan in the arena. So for WGI, if we have a regional or something, or for WGI, for that one's a little bit more coordinated at actually finals, but essentially I can walk into the building, take a scan there, and then go out and coordinate. Or for DCI, I can just walk to the edge of the field instead of having to coordinate in a staging area. Or if I need to be really I need to be really quick about it, I can do this while the truck is being unloaded. So by the time the truck is unloaded and the mixer cart is out, I already have a wireless scan. It has some quirks you have to learn. So the resolutions are a little bit weird, and most people are just like, it scans so quick. Well, it scans really quickly because by default, it's on a super low resolution image. So you'll need to make sure your settings are right, make sure you understand frequency bands and all kinds of stuff to make sure that this works for you. But I've had tons of success with it. It's pretty sweet. And then my other favorite thing is this is an all-in-one soldering kit. So inside of here, I have my Pine Sill, which is a USB powered mobile soldering iron. And no, it's not perfect. There's way better options that you can get for a real station, but I think I paid $30 for this when I bought it. They're a little bit higher now, I think. It's been a while. For that, it's a great soldering iron, and you can take this, and I don't have my backpack over here, but I have a laptop charging battery, a 100-watt battery that will power this, so I can be in the middle of a football field with no power, soldering a cable. So you just need that, a USB-C cable, and then I also have in here, I won't pull it out because it's kind of a pain, but I have a set of wire strippers, some solder, so I'll pull this out because it's super nice. A super small pair of helping hands. So this is just a flat metal block or plate, and then a pair of helping hands. And you also get two of these little super adjustable ones. And they're not huge, but for a travel set, this is exactly what you need. Again, at home, I use something else because I have a nicer soldering iron. When I'm on the road, this will do. So I also have that. And then I have a recent acquisition, which I'm super excited about. And this is from Home Depot. This is they call it a ringer. It's essentially what you would cut wires and some other plastics and stuff with that you can put around. I won't do it on my finger. Obviously, there's a razor blade in here. But put it around the wire, and then you can rotate it around and get a full cut. So this is slightly better than cutting the exterior jacket with a set of wire strippers. But most importantly, this one is adjustable depth with this little wheel right here, right? So this can be super nice for cutting a bunch of different varieties of deep jackets. Like if you got a power con and then you're trying to do XLR, then a second that's super thick and then super thin. Super nice to have, and just makes my life easier when I'm doing a bunch of cables. So carry that. And with that, again, with this, a USB-C cable that's appropriately rated, make sure you understand your cables, and then a power brick or some sort of power source. This is a mobile soldering kit that is pretty competitive, in my opinion. So, got that. This is just a bag of tools. I don't think there's anything impressive in here. I've got Allen keys, needle nose pliers, scissors, regular pliers, flush cutters, and a razor blade, and I think that's about all. So, bag of tools. If you're gonna fly, make sure everything is under 7 inches assembled, is what they technically say. So I have a screwdriver here, but I also have a shaft extension, so stuff like that. But just be careful. I always, I think I went over my tiny screwdriver in my previous video, so you can check that out. Most of this stuff is the same, but good to have, good to know. I have some other things you've seen before, which are the tape measure. This one's super thin and compact. It's 100 feet. So with this, I can measure out for marching band distances in between speakers in a parking lot that are farther than 15 yards or 16 point something yards, because a 50-foot tape measure can only get me that far. But if I have something between the 20s and the 40s and I want to, or something farther than the 20s and 40s or so, and I need to measure that, this will get me there comfortably without just honestly making me angry. I can also trim PAs with this if I need to. I have outlet tester, super great, easy. I mean, I also have a multimeter, you'll see in a second, but good to have for quick stuff. Screwdriver, we've seen that before. Multimeter, I won't pull it out, we've seen it before. It's cheap, it's small, we like it. 2x2, great to have. And then I have also in here a DI box. So this is a Radial Pro D2. These are great, I love them. Hard to beat Pro D2. I have a familiar face. So this is a GeoLiNet small router. So this is cool because it's small. I have 2 of these. You'll see the other one in the next kit in just a second. This one is configured for a WAN port and a LAN port. So this is more of my it can be nice in a hotel room, but also to get me to the internet on a gig if I need to. But coupled with the switch, I don't always need more than one LAN port, so that's cool. Runs on USB-C. I'll explain the LAN thing when I get to the second router. I have a pair of in-ears in here, and then I have a couple of things. Which one's gonna be the most fun? So this is a super cheap, but nice to have, because the one that I really want and that you really want is also just ridiculously expensive, so we'll get there one day. But this is a laser tape measure. So you can see, maybe or not, it can measure distances in either a one-directional or two-directional, so it has a laser on each side. And this can be cool for indoor settings. You don't really need this kind of thing outdoors because it's going to be super hard to use in the sunlight. But for indoor applications, this is nice. I will go in and measure gyms this way a lot of the time so that I can make predictions and things like that. If it's too far, I will use a rangefinder, which I also have in here. And this is all helpful if you need to know, hey, today our judges are so far away. And you can get a quick measurement. And if you want to do some super specific measurements, you can put those into Ease or Map 3D or Sound Vision or any of your other prediction tools. And you can tell how you need to set your PA up. If that sounds like a lot of crazy talk, that's fine. It is a lot of crazy talk. Essentially for line arrays, there's systems that we can use software that can help us make sure our coverage is correct. So same idea, but different for outdoors. This is just a cheap rangefinder. It does distance and it will do angle, which is helpful. And then it can also do distance accounting for angle. So you can measure basically, even if you're not parallel with the target, you can get kind of your X and your Y distance in addition to your actual hypotenuse or right triangle, whatever the right terminology is for that, insert it there. Assume that I said all the right things. So those are both great to have. Do I get to use those like on an everyday basis? Not necessarily, but they're still sweet and super helpful, especially in kind of the summer scenarios. I've talked about this before a lot, but this is my Behringer P1. I don't love Behringer, but this is one of the things that they make that is quite useful. This runs on a 9-volt battery or power supply, and it's a stereo in-ear monitor, or really, they call it a stereo in-ear monitor amplifier, but a headphone amp is what it is. So, helpful to have, helpful to have. That is the quick, fast rundown of what goes on in here. Like I said, I take this with me to basically all the gigs I do. It doesn't always come out of the car for the marching band stuff, but it is there if you should need it. What configuration did this go in? Is it this way? I think it's that way. Told you it was tight in here. So I will take this to most of the marching band gigs. It's in the car. It doesn't always come out, but it's nice for fixing small things, diagnosing small things, having access to the tools like measuring a venue or scanning for RF or soldering something, or having tools or a wireless router or whatever, and great to have. But the more helpful thing in the band world is actually making sure I'm not crushing anything there. This Pelican. So this is my installed Pelican. And this is the thing that I take with me to set up a front ensemble or a sound system, specifically more for marching band. And it is just been an upgrade for me before this season. This was in a Home Depot, I think 17 or 15 liter bin, whichever one that is. Now it's in this, which is so much more mobile. I did have it on kind of just some wheels, whatever. I'll talk about the bins in a second, but this has been helpful. Bunch of zip ties. Pro tip, this is in a Home Depot bag or a General Electric or a commercial electric bag that you would get at Home Depot. These are Harbor Freight zip ties. Go buy your zip ties at Harbor Freight. They're half the price, but they're just in this bag. So in here I keep stuff like connectors. You can see this is the other version of the lid organizer that Color Case sells. So I have your PowerCon stuff, your Pecon stuff, your Ethernet pass-throughs, small parts. So this is for D-series panels, screws, nuts, all that. Ton of XLR, and then a bunch of Edison. And 99% of the time, this gets my clients through what they need. If I have other needs that I know I'm gonna run into, I also have a kind of screw organizer thing that lives in the car that has all of that stuff. So your True One or your TRS, I think there's TRS in here as well actually, but your TRS, your insert problem there, your mini 5-pin pass-through, stuff like that. So the cool thing about this one is that these are removable and they have a little Velcro back. So I use them because they're more square for connectors. You can see like this fits super awesome, but maybe one day I'll upgrade the main Pelican to the removable. So anyway, this is stuff that I would not need on a daily basis to mix or anything, but is really helpful for install uses and is good to have. Is just, I know I'm setting something up today. Let me just grab the whole Pelican and go. So I got the drill, which you can see. Make sure that it's a drill with a torque setting that's safe for rack stuff. I just carry the full size one because it can do multiple things. So I feel pretty comfortable doing rack gear with this, but I also can drill out a panel or a D-series hole or whatever, or a rivet. So drill, great. I also have a heat gun. All of this stuff lives in these bags. So I've got a cheap heat gun. for doing heat shrink. So I have some of that, this cheap Amazon heat shrink. I also have a bag that is just bigger tools, right? And this is stuff like, like an amp splitter. So you can use your amp clamp to measure amps with that. It's nice to have. I have Ethernet crimper, full size Allen keys. These are great. I love these Craftsman ones. They have the ball end, which is really nice. And I have them in metric and imperial. And then I have a couple other just wrenches and stuff. Some notable mentions would be the drum key drill bit, right? So those are cool. And then a couple other random small things. So, whoops. Other non-sexy stuff that's in here, I have the battery charger for the drill, roll of gaff tape, don't leave home without it. I also have rolls of colored spike tape. I don't use this as much as electrical tape for coloring cables or anything, but if I have a school that has like a stage and they are trying to set soloists and I need the soloist to not move, oftentimes I will just grab this and throw some spike tape on there, kind of theater style. It's more likely to stay put than electrical tape on a stage, which is helpful. It's a little bit brighter. It's kind of a 10-yard rule kind of thing, so you're not going to see it as much, but it is good to have. I don't use it very often, but it's there. I have a little Anchor speaker, so I'll talk about this. This is my setup. Left alone on school on a Saturday, I need some jams thing. This is an Anchor one. I don't like Anchor. I don't support the Anchor stuff, but if you like it, that's fine, I guess. The only reason I bought this one is because this is one of the cheapest Bluetooth speakers that's this size that has an 1/8" in jack. So in a pinch, I can use this as a talkback mic from front of house up to the box. So via an IEM pack. So that's helpful, I guess. And I also just like things that have analog in because wireless. So that's that. I also have a set or a big bin of rack screws because inevitably I show up to school and they need a couple rack screws. I have small cable ties and connectors and blah, blah, blah. So I carry little things to just make everybody's life a little bit easier. I've got some double-sided tape and dual lock options in here. I've got a couple of the rapid straps that I'm a big fan of. These are just to help cable organize stuff. And then I've got cable ties and Ziploc bags. And this is basically just a little consumables thing. Oh, and little baby cable ties or zip ties. So options there. That's just kind of a throwaway, giveaway, something needs to happen bag, which is super nice. I also have a rivet gun. I'll leave that one in there. If you have one of the kind of RV style recessed Edison inputs that comes standard on tons of PI and synced up in other carts, a rivet gun is the thing that you're going to need to put that back in. I know tons of groups have had those yanked out. So I bring the rivet gun to try and solve that problem if I see it. Label maker, gotta have it. That's one of the cheapo Dymo ones, not the big Rhino thing, but one of these. It's fine. Pro tip, if you buy this anywhere or anything similar, and it comes with labels that feel like they fade and yellow and get disgusting, that's because you have paper labels and you need the plastic ones. So if you go on Amazon and type in your thing, you can find plastic in white and black. So if you look, for example, on the back of this, I've got a black label with my name on it. You can get white and black. You can also get clear versions, which I've got all of those in there. And that's what you want for the sun. So there's that. And then I have, what in the heck is this? Oh, this is sorry, I should know these things. This is a bunch of other Ethernet cable. So this is where I start talking about the wireless router. So I have in here one more wireless router. Oh, before I start talking about this, there's also a set of digital calipers that live down here on the bottom. Not a thing any program should need, but cool to have because if you run into a weird screw or weird sized hole or anything like that, digital calipers can help that hardware trip be one hardware trip and not three. So in here I have another of the GLINet routers. So this one is slightly bigger. This is, I think, the Slate version, whatever this model is, the AX1800. So it's a one generation old, I think, Slate, but it does do Wi-Fi 6, which is nice. This is important for me specifically for marching band because I wanted a GLINet because I love them, and I want a small router. It's a GLINet, so it's small. That had 3 LAN ports. Now it comes default with a WAN port and 2 LAN ports. The WAN port gets you to the internet. The LAN ports are for local devices for all intents and purposes. That's super reductive. But the reason for that is because if I run into a school that has a district managed MacBook that they're using for their main stage setup, they don't often like to change the Wi-Fi settings. I can pull mine out. And this one has 3 LAN ports, which will get me into my computer. It'll get me into their mixer, and I can run one of those long Ethernet cables to their MacBook, and I can get into all 3 devices with just the router and not need to pull out a switch. So that third LAN port is super necessary for me. So that's why I carry this. And inside of it, I've got, it also runs on USB-C, but I have a power brick that comes with it. And then I have a small cable up here and there should be, yes, Ethernet adapter. So I can run that into the MacBook if it's a MacBook and not a Mac Mini that has an Ethernet in. And then I have, obviously, I think this is a 50-foot and a 25-foot. So if your synth is on the 40-yard line, I can get generally from the mixer to the synth with a 50-foot cable. So this is one of those things that I didn't realize was a problem until I had a hour and a half to mix rehearsal. We have to get set up right now. We have to kind of get it done thing. And Editor Griffin here. So in this part of the video, I'm kind of rambling on a little bit, and I said Wi-Fi a few times, and I said a few things that were just generally not exactly what I meant. So I'm going to take a little bit of an Emperor's New Groove moment right here. And I'm going to just kind of explain some of that so we can make sure we're super clear about it. So the important thing to note is that I do have 2 routers that look really similar, and the use case for them is super specific for me, and this is the workflow that I've found. There's not a right or wrong, so I'm going to start with that. I carry the one in my first Pelican that you saw because it's a little bit smaller and it's pre-configured with that WAN port, and it's just one less step for me to have to get another Wi-Fi router out, put it in the Pelican, reconfigure it if I need multiple, if I need a WAN port or LAN port or anything. So I just have 2 of them, slightly different sizes, slightly different port counts, configured the way I need them to be. And they mirror all the settings, so all my SSIDs and everything are exactly the same. Nothing to worry about on a day-to-day basis. Now, the one that I'm talking about right now, the Slate, is important, and I mention this because it specifically has 3 ports, and there's 3 things for most of my schools that I need to get into on any given day. Now, this doesn't work if they have more than 1 synth, but for most of the main stage setups, it works perfectly. So it has a 3 network port configuration. I leave them all configured to LAN, and then I take to the first port, I have a 250-foot Ethernet cable that lives on a reel that I take to most rehearsals, and that lives with me and goes straight from my MacBook from the box down to the first port. The second port connects to their mixer, and then the third port connects to the synth, the actual main stage computer. That helps me, as I mentioned, circumvent school Wi-Fi or school MacBook issues where they don't let you change the network settings because it's locked by the district, or it helps me get around weak Wi-Fi signals and not miss any reps, right? So my most important thing is going to be making sure that I utilize all of my time effectively, and if the Wi-Fi connection is bad, that can ruin some reps. I really don't want that, right? So the wired specifically connection helps me be super stable in all of these environments, and it lets me be super stable in connection to not just the mixer, right? That's where that third port comes in. So the reason that I use that instead of just a switch, which you can get switches that are even smaller than that router, or like a switch and an access point or anything like that, is because it's one solution for my small clients, or not my small clients, but my clients that I end up doing rehearsals with in small stadiums. Those are really easy for me to just take my router, plug it directly into their mixer, and circumvent their setup so that my connection is quick and easy and I don't have to worry about it. And I can kind of get through with that if the Wi-Fi is good there, and I kind of know which stadiums that works in and which don't. And then if it's a bigger stadium, I can bring the reel and the Wi-Fi router and plug everything in. And it's a really quick and simple setup. It only requires a few cables and then what's in that carrying case. And it's really, really flexible. So that's really the biggest point I'm trying to hit home here. I'm really happy with the way that this router has been working. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands exactly where that's coming from. So let's get right back to the video right about here. I hope this has been helpful. This is, again, just kind of a quick rundown of all the stuff that I carry. So if you are a band director thinking, or percussion director thinking, do I need this stuff? No. This is just what I do. But hopefully there's one or two things in here that you thought maybe that's something you should have, or something that would be useful, or just like, it's a good thing that I know that exists. And I've been helpful. So if you are looking to get your stuff installed and you want to see how this kit functions, right? Or you just need your system looked after for this fall or this spring, you can email me. You can reach out to me via the information that you can find on my website, which is just griffinlawmusic.com. And we can talk and try and come out and get your stuff set up, try and get a little bit more mileage on these Pelican wheels. So I hope this has been helpful for everybody. Wish you all the best. Happy summertime, because DCI is happening now, and we're in the thick of it. So see you soon.